Previously,
It's with sylabdul.
I felt that I've been a fair assessor of what was expected from this DC reboot and giving it a chance to just see how it performs. Looked at the actual performance numbers, and just try to judge. I mean, anything that comes out with DC, I'm likely going to check it out and give my assessment. Right, so. We've gotten through this 2025. This was the Gunverse. 2026 is going to be, I think, very interesting for DC. And so we went through these projects, the Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Superman. Peacemaker's the latest thing. The finale didn't stick the landing like I felt Creature Commandos did not stick the landing. And so there is conversation, obviously. Some DC fans are concerned the scale of this DCU. Is it really, going to be epic storytelling, or is this going to be, kind of where it's at, where James Gunn has it at, where it's more personal stories and you kind of get some people in outfits and kind of go from there. Like I've always said with the Superman film, I thought it was a good character development. The scale didn't really feel there all the time. That's probably why the Mr. Terrific scene stands out so much, because that was just the coolest thing in the entire film. I mean, even if you look at the Superman versus Ultraman engineer fight, when I was covering the behind the scenes, that was, I thought, was going to be the most exciting thing in the Superman film. And we really didn't get a lot. We really didn't get a lot of that fight in that baseball field, which, because I covered tons of that. And those some of my most popular videos on my Superman channel. And it's good to keep in mind the Superman channel is part of the sylabdul Geek Network. Link in the description. Check those channels out. But so yeah, that was weird. So I think my stance is clear with that. This first wave of DC, we're still in the middle of this first wave. It continues in 2026 up to Clayface and Supergirl. And you got the Lanterns series. Then you kind of can assess the first wave of DC. Then you're going to get to the Reeves Batman. That's kicking off that second wave with Man of Tomorrow. And get these different flavors of DC. So, and keeping this open mind, you have these quotes. James Gunn went on a podcast spree, popping up on probably some of y'all favorite DC channels. And I gotta say, I kind of want James Gunn to just stop talking about future projects, because it's never clear what he's trying to say. Things continue to change, and it's not really building, in my opinion, not really building excitement for any of this stuff. Like I said, the Reeves Batman thing has the excitement. Supergirl has excitement. Clayface. So we know those things are, coming, or trying to make the Reeves Batman. Man of Tomorrow, we'll see. And let's just kind of stop there. Let's not even talk about anything else. You can give us more clues about Supergirl. I don't care. Like I'm just, I'm sure, unless she's doing like some kind of absolute power type thing from the comics, then okay. But this is a series. This is a DC series, so the scale, we already know the scale is not going to be there. If I wasn't fully happy with the scale of a theatrical Superman film, and then obviously Peacemaker season 2 wasn't really the scale because it is a series. Why would I think that Amanda Waller is doing something epic in this series? I'm just saying now, hey, this could be content for content's sake, meaning, we can kind of show behind the scenes and tie some loose ends or something like that. But, going from, hey, there ain't gonna be no dark side, but hey, we're gonna find everything out about Amanda Waller behind the scenes. All I'm saying, Gunn, is, and again, it's a series, so I'm not expecting something major here. But Amanda Waller needs to definitely be, and when I say absolute power in the comics, she found a way to basically steal all the heroes' powers and frame them in the media. It was an overarching story, which I know they're not going to do. So I just don't know how interested I'm in. Like, it's okay, Waller series, okay, like, okay. Now we was touching on the Lantern series, and like I said, I think that's gonna be pretty good. You're talking now again, it's a series. Where will the scale be? I'm just a little iffy on the scale of these projects, but I think Lanterns, I think have a great cast, great crew with that. So people are talking about the importance of this, and again, setting up the DCU. I can't really trust Gunn talking about setting up stuff anymore. After Peacemaker, no, I can't really trust you. And again, I keep going back to Creature Commandos, or again, each episode was hitting with, the backgrounds of these characters. It was building up to a major event in the finale, and then I feel Gunn dropped the ball in the Creature Commandos finale. Now we're getting that same feedback from Peacemaker season 2. Gunn just stop talking about setting up the DCU. Just, hey, Supergirl's coming out. Okay, excited. Lobo, that's gonna be good. That film's gonna be great. Clayface, low budget horror, DC horror. All that sounds good. Lanterns, we'll see the scale. Where there's supposed to be some cosmic elements, so we'll see the scale. But let's not talk about setting up and wait till you see the finale. Don't say that no more, Gunn. You actually are not allowed to say that. Like, when you say that now, just don't talk about finales anymore. Don't count out the Saudis. And there's no other way to put that. Turkey Al-Ashik and the crew, the reports are out there. They're already starting their own film studio. They already tapped Zack Snyder to direct the UFC film in the near future. They have a film studio, and they will be very interested in Warner Brothers streaming and studio next spring as well. Do not count them out. Now this ain't fair anymore. All right, we knew with Zack Snyder that he was on Instagram. We saw the Henry Cavill post went crazy. Joe Manganiello Deathstroke post went crazy. And I said, I was like, if he drops a Batfleck picture, look out. And lo and behold, Zack Snyder drops the Batfleck picture. As Zack Snyder puts here, one of my favorite Batman photos. He talks about he took it with his camera. The crowd goes wild. What is Zack Snyder doing to us, man? This is pretty epic. First off, as I said with the Henry Cavill picture, Zack knows how to keep DC in the conversation. The possibility of doing DC again. I mentioned, as far as when Warner Brothers is going to be sold, that Amazon has a play in this, and they have a good relationship with Ben Affleck, a good working relationship at least. And I could see the Batfleck project happening if Amazon buys Warner Brothers.
It's Coffee Talk with sylabdul. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe now.
Wake up in the morning, eyes crusty, heavy yawning. My phone keep going off, so I shut off the alarm and then head into the kitchen to get the coffee brewing. French roast with French vanilla, my own French revolution. Next movement is to tune into Coffee Talk with Sil. My girl is toss a yap if I tell her she needs to chill. I hear enough of the yapping from all of these goofy shills. Plus I'm trying to be informed of whatever's the latest deal. For real.
Oh man, HBO seems to have another hit here with It. Welcome to Derry series from the Muschiettis. Very interesting series, very interesting pilot that we'll briefly discuss here. This was a series I was looking forward to. I mean, Andy Muschietti was putting a lot of energy towards the series. When people was expecting him to start on the DCU Batman Brave and the Bold film, it seemed like he was more focused on, getting this series shot. And now word is they want to do 3 seasons of Welcome to Derry. As I mentioned in a previous episode, it's almost like an anthology approach where there's different periods in time when Pennywise strikes, right? Or feeds or whatever it is. I'm not that big on the lore of all this, of it. I just remember the old TV movie back in the day, and I was supposed to be scared of clowns or whatever, back in the day. But I always felt this was more of like a psychological horror type thing. And so I went into this pilot episode of Welcome to Derry like, oh, okay, it's more the same, right? Like, you got this group of kids and, the Pennywise is going to scare them, and, maybe one of them gets taken out, but they'll band together and find some way to overcome Pennywise. That's just, I'm very general with this IP, right? So I guess color me naive going into this this pilot episode, as we'll briefly discuss. I'm going to point out some highlights. There will be, spoilers, obviously, and looking forward to y'all thoughts. What you thought of this opening episode? But I will say right now, like, I'm definitely hooked on this series. Very effective opening episode. I think each episode is going to be like an hour long. I think it's like 6 episodes or so. It feels like HBO has a hit. I'll be interested to see the numbers that come out about this. But just briefly, my highlights of this episode. Not really going to touch on every single story element, but it opens up with little Maddie in the theater. He seems like a troubled kid, like a quirky type of kid, and he, I guess, is sneaking in the theaters, not paying to see these movies. One of the ushers spot him out and chase him out of the theater, right? And you have the pretty good storytelling elements in this episode. I'm really impressed because the episode opens up on this particular movie with different keywords like trouble and things like that, and then this episode book ends it with this same movie. So we'll get back to that in a moment. But long story short, Maddie wants to get out of Derry. So he hitchhikes after he's chased out of the theater. So it's like, does he have a home? Like, what's going on with this kid? He finds a non-suspecting American family that picks him up. And they say, hey, where do we need to take you? He said, I just want to get out of Derry. And so you have this eerie family, just weird things, weird dialogue. I love, and again, this is just me personally, I felt some Hitchcock vibes. Like, Muschietti, I see why he wants to do 3 seasons of this show, because he's, in my opinion, he's kind of cooking with this. This is enjoyable television. That's why I said HBO is on an interesting run here. But long story short, this family, now, and let me know in the comments, those that are more familiar with this whole, it lore and things like that, Pennywise lore, like, is this all a vision, or is it happening, but weird stuff is happening in the midst of real events? I don't know, right? But very effective opening sequence where, again, you got this kid spelling inappropriate words, strangulation and kidnapping, and it was just a very effective opening. I was like, oh, this is like a weird, quirky, you know, what's real, what's not, right? So, like I said, I love this opening. You got this mutant baby that pops out for whatever reason. I think all these are forms of Pennywise, right? Again, I'm calling on people who know more about this lore. This is what I kind of gathered from this sequence, and so very effective opening. It seems like Maddie is taken out by this weird mutant baby. So that's pretty much Pennywise, right? And so that's the opening sequence of the pilot of Welcome to Derry. They take out little Maddie, and then we're introduced to other kids, Phil and Terry and Lily, and eventually Veronica and little Susie. Little Susie. Pour out some liquor for little Susie. But we're introduced to all these new kids, and Lily, they all sort of had a connection to Maddie or indirectly. And so apparently this is how Pennywise, I guess, preys on these kids. Like, again, I don't understand the rules. I'm just going with the presentation and the story. But he seems to terrorize Lily. And again, it's revealed Lily has a connection with Maddie. So interesting. We'll just, kind of see how this develops. Pennywise again appears to visit little Terry, which is a very effective scene as well too. This is quality production, in my opinion, with the suspense and everything, with the lore of these characters. Definitely got to shout out. In the Terry scenes, you had two DC Comics references. You had the Flash reference, which, hey, I gotta say again, I enjoy the Flash film. This is a DC film that I check out probably once a month. So I don't fault Muschietti for any issues with the Flash film. They didn't finish the VFX and they changed the ending multiple times. I covered all that in real time. So it's just kind of cool. Muschietti kind of nods to the Flash and then nods to Clayface, another DC comic. I wonder, when they make Batman Brave and the Bold, will Muschietti use Clayface? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It's an interesting choice by Muschietti right there. But again, you have the jump scare with little Terry, and you realize, okay, Pennywise is again terrorizing people that I guess knew Maddie or feels close to Maddie, because there's another kid, Phil, and Phil makes it very clear in this episode that he really didn't care about Maddie. So he really didn't get any visions or anything from Pennywise, right? It was just Lily and Terry. So just interesting storytelling that Muschietti is doing in this episode, and I'm intrigued. Long story short, these group of kids realize, okay, Maddie was last seen at this movie theater. They get in touch with little Veronica, who's the daughter of the I guess it's a theater owner or someone who works for the theater. I'm not sure. She has keys to get into the theater, and they pull up the same movie. As I said, the whole book ending of storytelling. It's the same film that little Maddie saw in the beginning of the episode. These group of kids get it now. So again, we have this group of Terry, Lily, Phil, Veronica's up, showing the film. She's in the little film room, and little Susie pour out a little liquor. They feel, hey, we see Maddie in the film, and this is Pennywise messing with them. And that's that moment. This was a very effective closing sequence in this episode, because Pennywise, basically, I guess, takes the form of this mutant baby and goes wild on these kids. And when we say goes wild on these kids, we mean this is a murking, this is a massacre. This is something I did not expect to see in this episode. I did not expect. I just did. Have we ever seen Pennywise go wild like this? He pretty much takes out everyone except two people. Watch the episode, and you'll see the two survivors. I thought this was setting up a story where, all these kids, they'll band together, get some clues, and then, somehow withstands Pennywise. No, everyone doesn't make it. And this sets the stakes as in interviews. Miss Getty talks about this, where it's about setting stakes. It's about anyone can get it. And I'm just saying right now, I think even these two survivors here, I don't even think they're gonna make it through the season. This is just very effective storytelling. So now it's like, where does this leave us? People that was looking for Maddie, a lot of them are taken out by Pennywise instantly. Where does this leave us? There is like a B plot about this military thing where they're, I guess, investigating something in Derry. Is some weird paranormal stuff going on. I'm intrigued. We're going to see where this series goes. We'll be doing our little updates as long as this series remains interesting. Let me know in the comments below. How are you feeling with this Welcome to Derry series? And we got an old rumor which is being repackaged as a new rumor again. Last year we talked about DCU with Superman and Supergirl, where we expected Supergirl to show up in the Superman film. We got that at the end of James Gunn Superman, where Millie Alcock, Supergirl, the drunken Supergirl from the Woman of Tomorrow, at least influenced by the Woman of Tomorrow comics, stumbled into the film. And, we understand she's going to do her film next summer with Lobo. I think it's going to be pretty interesting for DC. 2026 for film, streaming, comic books, gaming. I'm really looking forward to 2026 for DC as a DC fan. Animated films and stuff like that. So people are saying, hey, we're hearing about reshoots for Supergirl. People are thinking they're adding Superman, Corn Sweat Superman to the film. I was told last year he was going to be in the film either way. I mean, I think he's already was in the principal photography for the Supergirl film. But if these reshoots is about touching up or adding more of him to the film, no, okay, that's cool. And maybe Gunn may use these reshoots as, again, bridging more to the Man of Tomorrow in this Superman saga. And we kind of wonder how long this saga really is going to be. And I'll kind of talk on that more in just a moment. But again, there's rumors Supergirl is reportedly likely to add scenes with Superman during reshoots for the movie. We already expecting them in the film. If they're adding more, again, or touching up what they already did, okay. I mean, we expect Supergirl and Man of Tomorrow as well. And the way things are looking, maybe that, Man of Tomorrow is James Gunn's kind of crescendo to his DC run, as we'll kind of touch on more. But what do you think in the comments? How do you like the idea of, I mean, what do we expect here, right? Kryptonians, they're going to stick together. So Supergirl popped up in Superman. Superman's going to pop up in the Supergirl film. And again, bridging more to Man of Tomorrow. And we'll talk more about DCU in just a moment, but just give me your thoughts with that. Now, James Gunn, he recently went on a podcast tour, jumping on different, DC, pro DC channels on YouTube, and people got several interviews. One thing I want to say, I have yet to hear a James Gunn interview where it's something, titillating for the future. Like you don't gather any really new information. It's more of just kind of abridge this, and maybe this will happen, and maybe not. It's kind of like I don't see the value of some of these James Gunn's interviews, to be quite honest. Yeah, I said this on a previous episode where let's stop talking about the future, James Gunn. Like, let's just talk about what it is. You had your entire year, 2025 was all James Gunn DC. We got Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker. As I said before, Creature Commandos, cool for what it was. Some cool Easter eggs. We had the wonderful Batman moment. That was a wonderful moment, and this is kind of telling me, as a DC fan, it keeps kind of telling me that DC is pretty much Batman, and then everything else, hopefully, whatever works, whatever sticks, is really about Batman. As solid as I feel, again, James Gunn Superman, it's in my rotation. It's an enjoyable film to me personally. I love the Mr. Terrific aspects. I thought Guy Gardner shined by the end of the film. The Clark and Lois stuff. So there's some DC stuff there that I, consume what James Gunn is doing. But DC, just in my lifetime, it's about Batman. And then again, you see what else sticks outside of that. That's kind of my take with DC right now. Superman did good enough. It didn't blow the doors off, right? And again, Superman is a film, just like the Flash film, Muschietti's Flash film. I'll watch Superman at least once a month and enjoy it as a live, action Superman and Justice Gang. Okay. Mr. Terrific, wonderful stuff with that. And that's just kind of what it is. The scale is where it's at. Batman, is up here. And Warner Brothers, as I said on social media, they blew their Justice League moment. When you got Zack Snyder, 2013 Man of Steel, 2016 BVS, and then you're going to do 2017 Justice League, but you chased off Zack Snyder when you was having this epic scale going up and up, and you would have had your Justice League moment just like Avengers had their moment. If you would have did Zack Snyder's Justice League in 2017, you would have made $1 billion. I mean, everyone saw the Snyder cut, right? So if you would have had like a shorter cut of that, it would have made $1 billion in theaters. Let's not even argue about that, right? BVS made $873 million. Justice League would have made $1 billion because the Snyder cut was more. Zack Snyder, I felt he realized, okay, yes, I'm going to always do my version of these films, but I want to give the people. I can kind of give the people what they want, but still do my style. I thought that was I'm trying to think of the films Zack Snyder did. Watchmen is like an ultimate film. Man of Steel is great. And again, I understand BVS was divisive. That's my favorite, but I'm talking about selling this to general audience, selling this to different, groups. I think the Snyder cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League, was probably the most palatable film Zack Snyder has ever given to the general audience. And it's a travesty that wasn't on the big screen. Because I said this in real time. When I saw the Snyder cut, I got a chance to see it a week early before it dropped on HBO Max. And I was watching this and I was like, okay, this is Batman felt different. Batfleck felt different in that film. The whole storytelling that Zack Snyder was doing, it felt different. And I was like, this was the light bulb moment. I was like, Zack Snyder, he kind of got it. He was like, okay, I'm going to do my style, but I got to give the people what they want. Because BVS wasn't that. BVS was just straight hardcore. BVS was hardcore Snyder on steroids. The grandest third act you ever saw in CBM history. We will never see anything like this again in theaters for Marvel or DC, where you had Batman versus Superman, you had the Wonder Woman moment, you had a Doomsday, you had the Trinity moment versus Doomsday, you had the death of Superman. You all that was all in the, and then Batman Warehouse. You had all that in the third act of BVS. And it just that would never happen again in CBM history. And if you want to kind of back up a little bit, you had the nightmare moment right before the third act right there. If you want to put that with the third act or whatever, I'm going to put. So you had Nightmare, you had Batman versus Superman, you had the Wonder Woman reveal, you had the Trinity moment, you had the Trinity versus Doomsday, and you had the death of Superman. That's 6 cinematic moments. We would never have that again. I don't care what you think of BVS. That is my favorite CBM film ever. And so watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was almost like Zack was like, okay, I get it. Some of the audience don't like these extreme moments. So I'm going to give you a little, I don't want to say sanitize because Zack doesn't compromise, but he understands the business. He played the game. And I think 9 out of 10 DC fans, actually, no, I'm going to say 10 out of 10 DC fans, they like the Snyder Cut. They like Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? So I don't know. I went on a whole tangent about Zack Snyder. I don't know what my tangent was about back there, but just we understand. And so you look at the scale of what Zack Snyder was doing. This is why we love it so much. And so with James Gunn, he was like, well, instead of a scaling moments, I want to give you more human moments. And I think James Gunn was very effective in his approach with DC storytelling. I'm not going to take anything away from it with that. The numbers are what they are. Y'all can go out there and argue about false numbers and things like that. Superman did just enough. So now we go forward with this DCU. Looming is the Warner Brothers sale, which again, I've talked about on this platform for over 4 years now. Will James Gunn survive this WB sale? And it comes down to a very simple approach for me that I'm going to do on my platform here. I'm going to make it very simple how I'm approaching this WB sale and how it relates to the DCU, James Gunn's DCU. We understand that the news has come out within this past month. The heads of Warner Brothers, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy, have been extended. Their contract has been extended. All right. They were signed on, I believe it was 2022, a 4-year deal. It was a summer of 2022. What a time on the platform then. We thought Zaslav was, going to do what was necessary for Warner Bros. Overall, and especially DC. The jury's still out on what he really did. But Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy just seemed like, solid from day one. And I reported back then, and let me kind of repeat now, because people love to forget. So we're in the time of the information age where at your fingertips, you can find anything you want, any video, anything. People seem to forget. I said this back then in 2022. DeLuca, Abdy, they were actually heading up DC. They brought in Cavill to add him to the Flash film at the end. Yes, Ben Affleck, that whole storyline with him lost in time was going to be tied up with another film. It sounds like it was another Flash film, but it's going to be a team-up film. So at that time, Black Adam was the catalyst for what was going to happen next for DC. Black Adam underperformed. Much as I love the film, I love Black Adam. I love the Justice Society, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Cyclone, Atom Smasher. I love the Black Adam film. That's again another film that I'll watch at least one time monthly. It underperformed. Right. That derailed $7 Productions, The Rock, Danny Garcia, and the crew, Hiram Garcia. Shout out to $7 Production. And DeLuca and Abdi was kind of leaning into that. Black Adam didn't do well. So Zaza, what I was told at the end of 2022, Zaza was like, DeLuca, Abdi, y'all can't worry about DC no more. You go over there, fix Warner Brothers. Zaza was like, I want a specific team to handle DC going forward. DC Studios. DeLuca, Abdi, you handle Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, Warner Brothers Animation, all that stuff. Y'all go over there. You can't handle DC no more. And then Joker 2 comes out. Folly I Do. Whew. Even more so, Zaza was like, see, that's why I don't want y'all to handle DC no more. I reported all this stuff. People forget. I know people like, oh, everything's in video. But if you want to doubt sourcing and stuff like that, whatever. If I catch you slipping, anyone that's doubting my sourcing, when I catch you slipping, you're going to be on the big screen right here. So, yeah. There's no more warning with that. That's just going to happen. We could play this game all we want. But I know, and my long-term viewers, y'all know what's up. If y'all want to fake the funk, we can pull you up on this big screen. So no more warnings with that. But so there was a rift. Zaza was pushing DeLuca and Abdi, saying, nah, don't worry about DC no more. We got Safran and Gunn. Now, at that time, they were trying to hire anyone they felt, that could key up DC. They ended up with Safran and Gunn. Okay. We got Safran and Gunn. You want to revitalize DC, showcase DC. That's another story that Gunn denied that I put out there, that James Gunn's Superman wasn't just a Superman film. It wasn't going to be a small film. At first, that's what they thought it would be, just a character-driven, story-driven. And then either it was a mandate or I don't care who called for this, is the fact James Gunn's Superman ended up being a attempt to showcase DC. And you saw what we got. You saw what we got with James Gunn's Superman. Great Clark and Lois moments. I thought some pretty good Superman moments. Fans of Superman, they message me all the time about all this, and they like the moments, the character moments that James Gunn gave him for Superman. I'm talking about the hardcore Superman people. Overarching DC, Mr. Terrific, wonderful. I hope that leads to something. Again, Guy Gardner Lanterns, okay. Hawk Girl, I don't know why she was there at the end of the day. She was just kind of there to be a part of the team. Metamorpho, great. Metamorpho. So it was some solid stuff that James Gunn did with DC 2025. Peacemaker season 2. I was watching that week to week. And some of the Peacemaker season 2 is probably the best stuff, DC stuff, James Gunn has ever written. That finale didn't land. And if the finale didn't land, partly because of the overhyping before the finale. Creature Commandos. I was very public saying I was watching every episode of Creature Commandos, and the Batman moment was wonderful. The Batman silhouette moment was wonderful in Creature Commandos, but the finale didn't stick the landing. That's the same thing with it's crazy thinking about this in real time. Peacemaker season 2 had the same kind of trajectory that Creature Commandos had. Solid storytelling every episode, Creature Commandos and Peacemaker season 2. Character development. He was fleshing out all these Creature Commandos characters, the Bride and Weasel and all this stuff. Dr. Phosphorus. It kind of reached like a peak with Dr. Phosphorus, which was kind of like the 2 episodes before the finale. Peacemaker season 2 reached its crescendo, and 2 episodes before the finale with the Lex Luthor Nicholas Hoult moment, I thought was probably the most effective episode in DC that James Gunn has ever done. Because you had the Earth X reveal, which upset a certain segment of people, but DC fans knew Earth X is in the comics. And then you got to the end, Peacemaker season 2, the finale wasn't strong. So I just think with James Gunn, we're gonna have a little performance problem when we get to the finale. When it's time for the finale. I will leave that analogy alone. But my point is that we saw what James Gunn has done with DC this year. The scale. Just how far will he go? Now he's saying, oh, I got this Man of Tomorrow. Man of Tomorrow is that's the next thing. We got the brain. We got the I don't know. Without Batman, you just kind of see what sticks. This is what I'm learning. It just in my lifetime with live action DC. You know, you made a little money with Superman. Great. Supergirl, I think, is going to do a little better. If Superman did 600, I think, Supergirl will get to 700 with Lobo. Man of Tomorrow, maybe you can push to 800. But we know when Batman comes out, Matt Reeves' Batman, you already know what's going to happen. So you got a very interesting 2027 where Man of Tomorrow and Batman 2 comes out. And again, it's not about me saying, oh, let me compare everything. All I'm saying is that DC it starts with Batman. And Batman is your event level film, no matter when it comes out. You can't do a small Batman film. Just like with Spider-Man and Marvel, you can't just do a small character study of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's event level, just like Avengers, Batman. X-Men's supposed to be up there for Marvel. We'll see. But Marvel has Avengers, and Avengers has to have RDJ. Because I don't want to make this to a Marvel conversation, but what does Marvel have after they do this Avengers Doomsday? That's RDJ heavy. Secret Wars. Then you're kind of done unless they're saying, oh, let's drag RDJ out there more, because Avengers needs RDJ. But Spider-Man is Spider-Man. And X-Men is X-Men, right? And especially if you have a good Wolverine, we'll see how far Marvel goes with X-Men. But right now, you bankable things in CBM is Batman, is Spider-Man, and it's Avengers as long as RDJ is there. Because Marvel, Feige, I think he realized that you can't just trot out a B or C-list Avengers team and just slap Avengers name on it and you don't got RDJ. That's what we got. That's why we got Avengers Doomsday coming out the end of 2026. Spider-Man, very bankable. Just keep it quality. Don't mess around like they tried to, mess with the quality of the Amazing Spider-Man. The first Amazing Spider-Man I thought was great. Andrew Garfield was great as Amazing Spider-Man. He had probably some of the best moments in Spider-Man No Way Home. There's a lot of aura with this guy. Okay? So you can't mess with the formula too much. But I just think overall, like who really think, let's be clear. Matt Reeves' Batman coming out, post-COVID, reboot Batman, he made a profit, right? With Pattinson. I didn't have high hopes for that film. I still don't think it's a great Batman film, but it fits in the Reeves crime saga. And then Penguin series comes out, which I think, again, epic HBO storytelling. Penguin. Like HBO loves it so much. You're like, we need a season 2, man. We need more, because this was appointment television when Penguin dropped. Insane finale for Penguin. So HBO wants more DC. They want more character-driven DC stuff. That's why my hopes are high for Lanterns going into next year. But who in their right mind thinks in 2027 that Man Tomorrow will get even close to what the Batman 2 gets in theaters? No, but it's Batman. Yeah, no, that's true. Gunn had his chance to relaunch Superman. Again, you got Supergirl. And then when you announce, oh, Man of Tomorrow is going to be Superman and Lex. Are y'all excited? DC Comics fans, yeah, we get where you're going. We get where you're going, James Gunn, with this. This could be a series. You're going to put it on the big screen. Okay, great. Hey, you may get more of the same that you got with Superman. And if the Supergirl audience pushes it up a little bit more, then I think you can get a little bit more with Man of Tomorrow. But Batman is Batman. And so that's why I think it's very clear. DC, it kind of starts and ends with Batman, and you see what sticks from there. I hope the Lantern series does amazing, because that belongs on the big screen. Lanterns, cosmic levels with that. But I say all that just to kind of set this up with what Gunn is saying in this quote here, that his plans for the DCU go significantly further than just Man of Tomorrow. Okay, ambiguous. Okay, well, let's see what happens. He says, whether or not that'll be me that's able to fulfill that promise depends on a lot of things. And I got people thinking, okay, you got this WB sale coming up, which again, we've talked about on this platform for over 4 years now. Now it's public. WB is for sale again. I'm going to do another video after this. It will probably be like a part 2 to this, but Paramount is trying to buy WBD outright. They're trying to swallow WBD whole. And Zaslav wants to split Warner Brothers from Discovery, and Discovery will have the legacy channels, cable channels. Warner Brothers will have the studios, Warner Brothers, New Line Cinemas, DC Studios, streaming, HBO Max, gaming, WB Games. That's the most profitable part of this, right? But once this sale happens, because WB is going to sell, Paramount's in the driver's seat because they can get ahead of everyone and buy everything. The studio streaming, the cable channels, Discovery, everything. Comcast doesn't want to do that. Comcast had their first shot. They kicked the tires. They didn't want to buy everything. No one else is stepping up except the Saudis. I keep talking about this again. It will be a part 2 to this video, or just a further conversation about the sale. They'll be coming out either probably this weekend or something. But there's more to that story. Paramount will buy everything. The Saudis will buy everything as well too. No one else wants to step up to that table. So we'll see how that shakes out. But at the end of the day, it's about who will be the new owners of Warner Brothers, meaning they will be owners of DC Studios. DeLuca and Abdi got their extensions already. Their contract, again, was due to run out next summer, 2026. They've been re-upped, signaling to the new, owners is that, hey, DeLuca and Abdi, they course corrected Warner Brothers in real time. Very magnificent job. I mean, since Minecraft and Sinners and Weapons, and you got everything that DeLuca and Abdi has done, and they're setting the stage for potentially another successful year in 2026. I mean, worst case scenario, if the new owners say, oh, we come in, we don't want DeLuca and Abdi, then they got to buy out their new contract. That shows confidence in DeLuca and Abdi, and very deserved. I mean, we watched all these films. Us film goers, we think they've done a great job with Warner Bros. This year. Where's the confidence in DC in Safran and James Gunn? I'm on record. I mean, Superman, I feel did make a profit. You know, if we're understanding, people try to not understand how advertising tie-ins work. That's why I have no problem calling out people that wants to just pretend they don't understand that now. So Superman made a profit. But was it enough? That's why I said let's get the numbers out there. Let's have this real nuanced discussions, because then now you can gauge it. Okay, you're claiming you made a profit, this much profit, but you didn't extend Safran and Gunn when their contract is due to be up fall of 2026. DeLuca and Abdi was summer 2026. They're already re-upped. Gunn and Safran, that is the story here. That's why it's like people get so caught up in misinformation and I want to one-up people and gotcha on social media. Let's put out the real information and then we can assess what's really going on. If they ain't got no extension, there's something up with that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But Gunn, this is the first time he kind of expressed some doubt that, hey, I got my man tomorrow. That could be his DC Swan song. And I mean, that wouldn't be too bad if you think like, okay, he got all this year to rally as much DC fans as he can. I don't feel he accomplished rallying DC. I think James Gunn found a pocket of fans, of DC fans overall, that was like, okay, we can rock with this Superman saga, but it's not going to be Batman level. All right. So you got that. HBO Max streaming, HBO, the leaders in HBO, they love this DCU. They're like, can we do series every year? So no matter if Gunn is there or not, HBO Max, they're like, yeah, we're going to do some DC stuff, the character-driven stuff every year if possible. So the template is there. Now, to be clear, that template was there before even Gunn and Safran. But so the template is there. And maybe I'll get that on the screen here. The idea of multiple live action films per year, an animated film, multiple series, and I believe some animation, DC animation. That's been the plan since Hamada. So Gunn and Safran can repeat that, but with them or without them, DC is going to do this type of, churning out content yearly. Just want to kind of prepare people for this. So long story short, I mean, what is the future of the DCU? And like I said, until Safran and Gunn are officially extended with their contracts, this may all end with Man of Tomorrow. Because Warner Brothers is going to sell in 2026. Okay. It usually takes like a year or two to get the new owners in the building. We just saw this happen with Zazzaf. And really, it's just a year. It takes like a year. May 17, 2021, Discovery bought Warner Brothers. Zazzaf was on all the news channels. I went live that day with the late, great Mikey Sutton. We told y'all they were going to flip the company. So when Warner Brothers sells in 2026, it'll be a year for all the regulatory things. Again, I'll have a separate video. We're going to dive more into the sale and who could really buy Warner Brothers. Paramount is sort of in the driver's seat right now, but it may get wild going into next year. But once they sell, I would say by spring of 2026, it will take a year to get everything clear. So summer 2027 is when the new owners will be moving their furniture into Warner Brothers. And that's when Man of Tomorrow comes out and Matt Reeves' Batman Part 2 comes out. And then that's when they can assess, what are we going to do? Is this Gunn DC working? Is it not? So that's going to be an ongoing story for the next couple of years on this platform. Because again, we saw this ownership changing in advance. And now we're going to, again, react to how this all plays out. So one thing that Zaslav could do to show confidence in Gunn and Safran is announce their extensions like he did to Luca Abdi. These exec positions, these were power struggles. Like I said, it was a power struggle in 2022. DeLuca and Abdi was pushed out of DC. DeLuca and Abdi rolled their sleeves up and made WB a smashing success for 2025. Now they got their extensions. Gunn and Safran, they did just enough. No extension so far. We shall see. We shall see. Now, yo, let's have a real conversation about what's going on with Zack Snyder posting Snyderverse content on Instagram. Let's have a real conversation about this. Okay. Because I'm seeing just hot takes all over the place. Like, does this mean Restore the Snyderverse is imminent? Well, there's no way of us saying Restore the Snyderverse until after this Warner Brothers sale, right? So let's kind of get ahead of this right now. We do have to see how this sale of Warner Brothers shakes out. And as we're ascertaining, we're about 6 months away from understanding who's going to who's going to buy Warner Brothers. So let's put a bookmark as far as what Restore until we see new ownership of the contenders to buy Warner Bros. Again, Paramount, as I'll expound on a separate video in a separate episode, we'll dive more into Paramount and other suitors. Paramount's in the driver's seat for several reasons. They came out first and said, we'll buy everything, Warner Bros. And Discovery and cable channels. No one else is stepping up like that except the Saudis, which again we'll break down more. Turkey Al Sheikh and the crew. I think where they own TKO, the whole UFC thing. They're pretty fond of Zack Snyder as well. I know people like, oh, this is a grift. How dare you have connections to Zack Snyder? I mean, the picture's right there. So so if they're going to buy, just common sense would tell you, if someone who's fond of Zack Snyder buys Warner Brothers, the owners of DC, there's a chance Zack Snyder will do more DC right there, right? But then also, again, with the current lineup of Warner Brothers heads, DeLuca and Abdi have been extended. They have been very friendly with Zack Snyder as well, allowed him to do the Full Circle event. I was there a couple of years ago where Deborah and Zack said on and off camera, they talked about DeLuca and Abdi. Right? So I reported all that to y'all. And just things are lining up pretty interesting. I think no matter where this ends up, Warner Brothers, Zack Snyder has a good shot to do more DC. Right? So that's one thing. But then two, just what I see people will keep commenting under my posts. What does Zack Snyder think he's going to accomplish? What is this? Just remembrance of what he's done before? just like during the release of Snyder Cut days, Zack Snyder knows what will move the needle when he dropped those storyboards, when he dropped other pictures of the Snyder Cut existing. We lived through that. I'm talking to Snyder fans, the core of the channel, those who helped build this channel from day one. But then we talk Zack Snyder, we talk DC overall, no matter who's head of DC. And then we do talk about other notable CBM geek topics. That's what we're going to do here. But the core started with Zack Snyder on this channel and then DC fans. And we know what moved the needle with Snyderverse. And now with Zack posting these, yes, this is causing headlines on multiple trades, or at least multiple sites, I will say. You can't deny it. The social media push is pretty wild when Zack Snyder drops these pictures. Not just Twitter. Instagram is bigger than Twitter. You got Facebook. I gotta check TikTok. TikTok's pretty big. So it's moving the needle anytime Zack Snyder posts a DC related picture. Why? What is he trying to accomplish? That's what we're gonna briefly touch on today. Let's be very real. Zack Snyder, he's a lightning rod on social media. When he does anything, people have some type of emotional reaction, whether positive or negative. Zack Snyder put out there that, hey, I would do a Dark Knight Returns type of project. He made that very clear several times. And as I said on social media, I said, I think that's code for finishing his story. Because at the end of the Snyder Cut, one of the scenes that he ended the epilogue was Batman on the Bat Tank. He had the mutants around him. What was that about? Dark Knight Returns connected with the Snyder Cut directly right there. I just think that's code for finishing his story. Maybe things have changed a little bit. Actually, we know things have changed. Everyone has the old storyboards and the old story. And that was a scary version that Warner Bros. Didn't allow him to do. So Zack Snyder's already course corrected that story before he finished BVS. And obviously before he finished the Snyder Cut. So there is a new story, and I think Dark Knight Returns is just code for that. And he said, yeah, I would do that story if I had a chance to do DC again. And I think Zack Snyder will have a chance to do DC again. So if Paramount gets Warner Brothers, does Zack have an angle? Who's going to be over DC then? Will Gunn still be there? We'll see. We already talked about the Saudis. That's a guarantee. If they get Warner Brothers, it's over. Zack's gonna finish the story. If this splits out next spring and you get someone like Amazon, I think Amazon would definitely do a Batfleck movie, and I think Ben and Zack will do that together. Yeah. That's my belief with that. Netflix, as I said, Netflix seems to be a long shot because I don't think they will outbid anyone. Because if Netflix puts a bid on Warner Brothers, I think Amazon will outbid them easily. And then if Paramount's still there and you still have Comcast there, Apple, there's more chatters that Apple may not get into this bidding war. So that's one tech company that may not step up like the rest. But if I'm going to rank it, and again, I'll do a separate episode, I think Paramount's in the driver's seat. I think if you get past Paramount, Comcast is the next favorite. Amazon will be my dark horse. And I think Netflix is a long shot. I just don't see them outbidding anyone for just the Warner Brothers part. of this. But what Zack Snyder is doing is keeping this in the conversation. I see people getting nervous. Again, I mean, Gunn's fan. If you this Gunn verse, this DCU that Gunn is doing, I think you should be I won't say nervous, but it's just like, I don't know, are we going to get this full Gods and Monsters thing? Will we just get a Superman saga, top it off with a bow with Man of Tomorrow, and you'll still have this content? You have James Gunn's Superman right now. You got that depiction. Does it hold up to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel? I think Man of Steel is a more epic film. We have both films right in front of us. And this is the thing. This is the difference between me and a lot of people out there. I can enjoy both of those films. Right? People eliminate themselves out of this conversation because they were so caught up on Cavill being in Black Adam, with the John Williams score. So y'all can get out of this conversation. But the rest of us, the same DC fans and Snyder fans, that's not going to allow trolls to speak for us. More on y'all soon. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of people over here on this podcast channel. But, we're giving DC a chance, and it either holds up or it don't. You put James Gunn's Superman next to Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a more epic film. Let's just be real, in my opinion. And I can enjoy both. So when Man of Tomorrow comes out, then you got Matt Reeves' Batman 2 coming out that year. It's not about, we got to compare both films, but just like, who's going to make the bigger splash? Of these two here, 2027, who's going to make the bigger splash? Let's just be honest about all this stuff, man. It's like Gunn had all this year to, you talk about the fractious DC fan base. You could bring them together. You can create a new fan base or whatever. So you got your Superman saga audience, 600 million, 614. What will Supergirl do? I think Supergirl will do north of 700. Will that carry over to Man of Tomorrow? And that's your audience right there. You're not blowing the doors off. And maybe that's why he doesn't have his extension yet. That's all I'm looking at. You can like or dislike whatever you want. The Luca and Abdi have been extended. What will happen to Gunn and Safran, right? We'll see. And as far as with Zack Snyder, again, I feel whoever buys Warner Brothers, that there is still a shot for Zack to complete his story. And then we'll see the rest of DC, how that lands. Let me know in the comments below what you're feeling about all this. DC, I wish DC wasn't such in limbo like every few years. But this is where we're at. We'll see what happens.
Let me give you more reasons to follow the homie still. For the latest news, scoops and moves he's about to reveal. From coffee talks to special brews, I'm out of burgers for meals. A cup of bourbon with that tea that's about to get spilled. Like, what's the latest word? Yo, still, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, still, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go, take out your pen and paper, sit down and take notes. Still is the realest among imposters, scavenging cutthroats. So, what's the latest word? Yo, still, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, still, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go. Between DC and Marvel, they both have a startle. Disney's moving finicky, let's not mention Star Wars. All these movie execs be drunk off that power, disconnected from the fans in the ivory towers. What's the latest word? Yo, still, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, still, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. When they keep making the same mistake, that's what you call insanity. They can't even acknowledge their self-inflicted calamity. What's the latest word? Yo, still, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, still, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go. Scoop Senator, Coffee Talks, also covering analytics, making his own reviews, cause it's always been The critics, they clout chasers, money driven, repeating the latest gimmick. Come over to Syl Nation where true vision is given. Listen, what's the latest word? Yo, Syl, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Syl, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. Let's not forget Mikey's son, always special to the crew. From day one when him and Syl got together for special brew. What's the latest word, yo, Syl, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Syl, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, I guess I'll finish on this note. When the niggas go flip mode, they turn gremlins, I'm gizmo. Come from my people, my kinfolk. For them I ride for and kill for. With this pistol I'm skillful. Shit can really escalate till it all goes abysmal. What's the latest word, yo, Syl, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Syl, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. I'm a watchman, forever vigilant, steady watching and listening. Disciplined, militant, killing these dudes that started visiting. What's the latest word, yo, Syl, we need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Syl, we need to know. The ins and outs, who's walking out, buying in, we need to know. Your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go.